You know the moment when absolutely everything falls apart? When you're questioning every decision that you've made up to this point because you knew this would happen and you were trying to avoid that, and here we are, it's happening. When you feel like you have lost your way, you've lost all of your energy, and you just don't have the capacity to care anymore. Well, what if I told you that that's not the problem? That's the path. Welcome to Legacy Lounge, the podcast where you'll discover how to lead with purpose and build a legacy that matters. So if you're ready to step into your full potential, show up authentically for yourself and others, and create a lasting impact on the world, you're in the right place. Let's begin. Hey leaders, welcome back to the Legacy Lounge. I'm your host, Brin'na Rollins-Williams, and today we're going to talk about something that might help shift how you view your struggles. I think we could all use a little bit of that right now. We are diving into the concept of two mountains, but most importantly, the valley between those two. Let me start with a short story that helped change how I see struggles. So picture this. I'm 29 years old and I get my dream job. Target's youngest district senior director. And not only this homegrown girl from Indiana was being relocated out to Northern California, I was going to run 10 Target stores, over $580 million a year in revenue, thousands of team members, massive responsibility. And like I said, my dream job since I graduated from Purdue and started with Target. 4 years into my career, I had it all. Had it all figured out too. But in a casino parking lot with my boss, I knew something had to change. So one thing led to another. After 11 years with the company, I decided to walk away because I didn't want to sign an NDA. It would have kept me quiet about integrity issues I surfaced and my own experience on the other end of what it was like to have that leader and the impact that it made on a much larger scale. But I chose my voice. But the parking lot moment, that was my valley. And looking back on it, I can confidently say it also saved my life. So let me break down this journey between the two mountains and the valley. The first mountain is the success chase. So this is where most of us are and where everybody starts. We're chasing the career achievements and we're building our reputation and we're accumulating all the status symbols of success and we're following society's playbook to a T. My first mountain was the corporate climb. I was obsessed with being the youngest, typically the only female, but I was obsessed with being the fastest and the most successful, and that people would say, wow, how old are you? Wow, how long have you been with Target? Wow, where are you from? I collected the titles like it was trophies and the awards that came with them for the performance that my team delivered. District Senior Director before 30, managing thousands of team members, getting invited to the executive table, the big kids table. I thought if I just achieved enough and I performed well enough and I climbed high enough that I would finally feel enough. But what nobody tells you is reaching that summit often feels super empty. And I was exhausted. I was exhausted from wearing all the different masks that were not meant for me, nor made for me. Now into the valley, where things really start to change. This is where things get interesting. The valley shows up as career collapsing, personal crisis, loss of self-identity, health challenges, and did I mention identity challenge? Because holy smokes was that tough. My valley looked like panic attacks. It looked like hand shaking, uncontrollable sweat. It looked like a short-tempered, snappy person who was always on the go, unavailable for everybody, but available for the team. Reliable as all get out and always would tell you yes and help at the expense of myself. I was so good at it, but I was also so disconnected from who I actually am and who I want to be and who I really was. It looked like seeking medical support, starting therapy, ultimately making a decision to quit drinking, just to cope with the pressure of being somebody that I wasn't for an extended period of time. The valley forced me to face a lot of different questions, but a big one was, who am I when I strip away all of the titles and the performance? That question terrified me, but it also set me free. So here's the truth about the valley. They are where your character is built. They are where convictions are tested. They are where individual transformation happens for you in a way that you want, you need, you desire, or that you also hate because you have a choice to change it. And in the valley is also where you find your purpose. So to exit the valley and start heading up the second mountain. This is the purpose peak, if you will. This is where life gets real. Service replaces status. Community takes over competition. Impact outweighs income, but in a different value. Meaning matters more than metrics, and you start to feel what that means. So I want to share a quick story about a hospital janitor, and he understands the two mountains perfectly. So I overheard a conversation in the hospital of somebody who asked about their job specifically. And I just was sitting in the waiting room and overheard a piece of it. But he said something I totally did not expect him to say. And I expected to hear, clean the floors. I change the light bulbs. I make sure the AC runs, right? To all my property management people out there, you do the things that nobody recognizes until they don't have it anymore. But instead of saying, I clean floors, he said, I help heal people. I immediately was drawn in to know more. And I started to recognize that he understood that when families are in a total crisis mode and in a emergency situation, that he takes pride in the fact of knowing that they're going to walk into a clean and peaceful environment at the hospital. And that is a way of giving somebody hope. When patients are fighting for their life in a spotless room feels like they're being cared for, he wasn't just pushing a mop, he was creating a space for healing for people. That is the type of second mountain thinking that is our responsibility of leaders to recognize. Your impact is not your job description alone. It's how you serve others through that platform. It's expected to get the results. It's expected to deliver. And it's also your responsibility to develop your people and your team along the way. This type of application of describing what value you bring through your role came from a janitor in a hospital. Think about how big that could be for your team. So let's try something brave. Identify your own mountain. Where are you on your own journey? What are you really chasing? And who, if you stay on that path, are you becoming? Then you can start to face some of that valley. What struggle are you specifically avoiding? I'm sure there's one that comes to mind even as I ask that right now. What have you learned in the challenging space? What is it teaching you? What's it preparing you for? And lastly, when it comes to identifying what your purpose is, it's about what fills you up and makes you feel like this is what I was put on the planet to do. Who do you serve? What matters deeply to you? And where do you make an impact when you're not even trying to? So here's the paradigm shift. Valleys aren't detours, they're paths. Struggles are not punishment, they're preparation. And breakdowns are not failures, they're breakthroughs. You just might not know it yet. My parking lot breakdown led to building legacy fulfilled. And all those years of feeling like a fraud in corporate, and if I am enough, I now get to help other leaders find their own authentic voice and kick ass at work and deliver, but feel good about who they are when they go home and what they're going home to that serves the bigger future version of themselves. The panic attacks I had taught me to recognize that leaders are struggling behind those masks, man. I know it and I can see it. And my valley that felt voiceless actually became a superpower to help others reclaim their own voice by doing so myself. The thing that almost broke me became what makes me the most useful to other people and is natural to me. I know without question, I am on this earth to amplify other people. I am here to support people in growing and achieving their own aspirations and dreams. But I also know that I know who I am. I know what it means to operate with integrity. I know what it means to define your values. And that's a really hard lesson that I didn't even recognize I needed to learn. But now that I know, and it's who I am, I now know how to amplify others with my skills, with my own passion, with my own experience, with my own knowledge in a way that is truly me and supporting them in achieving their own goals. Here's a few things to remember as we close out this episode. Courage is not built at that summit. It is shaped inside the struggle of the valley. Character is not formed in comfort. It is built in the challenge. And purpose is not found in success, but it is discoverable through service. The question isn't, how do I avoid the valley? It is, what is the valley preparing me for? Your struggles aren't happening to you. I promise they are happening for you. You just might not see it yet. And that breakdown that you're carrying the weight of every single day, the one that you're avoiding, that's your own breakthrough waiting to happen. And if you're in the valley right now and you're strolling along, walking right through it, it's not the end of your story, but it's the beginning of a better one. As always, share your insights with me. I would love to hear about your valley, whether you're ignoring it or whether you're in it, and know that there's somebody on the other side rooting for you. It's time to normalize talking about struggles as stepping stones, not as something good or bad or right or wrong. It's just a part of growth and development, and leaders experience it everywhere. But if this episode shifted something inside of you, share it with another leader who needs to hear it. I need your help to amplify it. Until next time, remember that the valley is not where dreams go to die, but it's where purpose comes alive. Keep leading with courage. Until next time, I'm Brin'na. That's it for this episode of Legacy Lounge, a podcast dedicated to empowering you to lead with purpose. Remember, leadership begins with you. When you're connected to your values, strengths, and authentic self, you show up powerfully for your team, businesses, and everyone you lead. To authentically lead others, you must first lead yourself. I challenge you to consider, how are you investing in your personal growth to create a legacy that you envision? Thank you for joining me in the Legacy Lounge. If this episode sparked any thoughts or inspired action, I'd love to hear from you. I'm your host, Brin'na Rollins-Williams. Connect with me on LinkedIn or other socials, and let's continue the conversation. Remember, your legacy is built one intentional step at a time.